If we keep waiting on the educational system, the healthcare system, the whatever system, the government to change things for us, we will be waiting for a really long time. It starts with us taking personal responsibility and setting up personal boundaries.
Electricast. Welcome to Season 4 of Transforming 45. I'm your host, Lisa Boate, and this season we're stepping fully into our power. The heat, the hormones, the heartbreak, the healing. This is Midlife, raw and redefined. Each episode, you'll hear stories of humans who are rewriting the rules, reclaiming their bodies, their desires, their voices. This is where we stop shrinking, start shining, and remember who the hell we are. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's an awakening. Let's get transforming 45. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. This week, my guest is Maria Angelova, creator of the Angelova Method and a true mind-body leader. With 30 plus years in fitness and 17 in corporate leadership, she helps high performers reclaim their energy, identity, and purpose. Maria, I'm so glad you are here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Do you remember a moment when you realized this life you had created for yourself just wasn't working for you anymore?
You know, it wasn't like a sharp process. It was more a compilation of things that had happened. And I remember I was still in my corporate career when I went just for an annual physical and they drew blood and I literally passed out. And I was just like having a hard time coming back to reality. And they were like, how much did you sleep yesterday? Did you eat? How is your stress level? And I was like, I was one of those people who is like, I am fine. I mean, I was stressed, I was anxious, I wasn't sleeping, I was constantly rushing, but I was like, I got this. And then when I looked around, everybody else around me was feeling that same way. So I was like, that is just the price of success. And I think over time, we have normalized that and we have accepted that success and feeling great are two separate things and they don't go together. And I'm here to tell people, no, you can be successful and you can feel great at the same time. So I
Yeah.
think that was a big moment for me. Another moment was when I had an anxiety attack and my family called the fire department and they were in my bedroom. And I remember the fireman telling me, you're either going to get it together or we'll have to resuscitate you. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not good, right? It's one of those moments. Wow, I'm not sure how fine I am. So these are two moments that stand out. And then what? Then what do you do? Because you still have to stay successful and do all the things that you're used to doing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two things I want to say right now. So there's the questions, but I want to respond to what the EMT said to you. Like, either you're going to get it together or we're going to have to resuscitate you. And I was like, man, is that ever an encapsulated version of what it is to be a woman living at this time? Like, and I will say humans in general, right? Either suck it up or we're going to have to take you and have major intervention rather than the response of, we see you,
Yeah.
right? Like that could have been a moment to create a healing space of, we see you really struggling in this moment. Can you tell us what it feels like in your body right now?
Yeah. I
Right?
can.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is, I think when you're in that stage of where I was, and I was in the fitness industry, not so much in the healing space back then. I'm not really sure that you even know what that means because you know what you know. And once I started getting more into the healing space, and even when I was in the fitness world, the young me who started teaching fitness at 16 was about the HIIT workouts and let's go fast and what's your heart rate and how many calories are you burning? Let's go, let's go, let's go. That was on top of being already exhausted. Versus the me now, how are you doing? Are you sleeping? How are you managing your stress level? How's your body feeling? And based on that, we will adjust your movement routine. And and people are like, wow. And I think we just don't know what we don't know. And even when people talk about healing, you're like, your brain doesn't have the capacity to understand what that means. I don't know
Yeah.
if you like, if you agree with that.
It's why those questions that bring you back to the body are so important. And I sort of think, like, when I think about my first panic attack, what it felt like, It was the first thing that cut through my numbness, maybe ever, right? It was something that called me back to my body. So when I heard you talking about your life and how you were living it, I was like, oh, yes,
Yeah.
right? Like, yep, hear that, hear that, hear that. And we do all these things to silence our bodies
Yes.
until our bodies say, F it. You have to stop this and you need to come back. And so that first panic attack where I felt like my chest was going to explode, right? It was like, for me, it feels like fire in my body and my chest gets really tight and I can't breathe. And, I also sometimes have visual migraines. So I'll essentially lose vision in one eye.
Wow.
I still remember the first time it happened and how I know that it's a stress response for me. It was in my first year of university, like first week, and I was walking across the campus and all of those feelings that you have when you're away from home in that way for that time, like the weight of like, oh, this is really a next step for me. So there was a lot of like big stress. And all of a sudden I lost vision in one of my eyes. And I was terrified, obviously, had no idea what was going on. So I went into a cafe, I sat down, I had a muffin and just sat there until the vision came back in my eye.
Wow.
Yeah. And it would happen here and again, but I had a strategy for how to deal with it. And it wasn't until I was talking to a girlfriend of mine who was an optometrist, and she was like, dude, that is a visual migraine. And I said, okay, great. I have language for it now. Thank you. But again, there are these signs that our body gives us that call us back to the body. Which is why I was like, man, in that moment, if that person had asked you a question that would like helped you
Anchor.
anchor into the body, how might that have changed? Like literally asking you that, like, tell me what it feels like on the inside for you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to something that I talk about a lot about with clients today. It's the us learning to listen to our body because our body is constantly giving us feedback and we have taught to override it. I don't have time for this. We put some cream, we put some medicine, we put an injection, and like we keep cruising until the body is like, all right, my friend, you've had plenty of opportunities and let me make you stop now. And I feel really passionate about it because again, I was my first client who is like, I'm fine, I'm good. And I can't tell you how many people come and tell me, I'm good. I can handle stress. Like I know how to handle stress. And if you look at their body, if you look at their breath, if you look at the tension that their body is carrying, it is a very different message. But because they don't have a different baseline, that's all that they know, it's okay. Once they start feeling the change into body and mind, into their energy, they're like, wow. And a lot of the feedback is, I can't believe what I used to do to myself. Same. Like, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings me to my next question, which is the story of duality, right? When we are experiencing burnout, it is often this very dual story where one is you are experiencing, right? Like how you're feeling, what is happening in your own body. And then there is what everybody else sees on the outside. So, can you talk to us about that? Like, what was that contrast for you? What do you think other people saw on the outside versus what you were actually feeling?
So I think that's where, again, it goes back to normalization and we praise almost burnout, right? I used to
Mhm.
I would share with colleagues, oh man, I slept only 2 hours last night and I went to my daughter's performance and I did this and I finished the project. And people are like, oh my gosh, you are doing amazing, right? It's almost like a high functioning alcoholic who can still make it through the day. And instead of people going like, do you think you should take the day off and go home and sleep? It's like, oh my gosh, I want to be like you. And it's like, ay, ay, ay. And behind the scenes, I couldn't sleep. I'd be exhausted. I would get in bed, 2, 3 hours of flipping and thinking of how the next day is going to go. I wake up and it's that groggy feeling of, I just have to survive the day. And, I would tell people, I am lucky that I can make this sleeping 2, 3 hours a night. Now, when I think about the things I used to say, Lisa, I'm like, holy cow. Like, wow. Going back to the story you shared, my first anxiety attack happened in high school when I went to the bathroom and I literally collapsed on the floor in the bathroom and they had to call an ambulance. And, they checked me and they were like, fine, you were just tired. And I was like, okay, I'm just tired. That's normal. So just keep going. So I think and people will tell me, well, I'm very successful. I do my job, I perform. That does not mean your nervous system is not fried. Like you can do the two together and look totally fine on the outside, but you can look at signs like, are you clenching your jaw? Like just yesterday, I was talking to a client. One of the things that we work on is self awareness. And he came and he goes, oh my gosh, I clench my fists all the time. And he's like, I never realized it until we talked about it. Tension in the shoulders, tension in the necks, shallow breath. Breath is one thing I used to evaluate people's stress. When they tell me I'm fine, I'll ask them, can you please take a breath? And you see the
Huh.
shallow, rapid breath, tension in neck, shoulders. That is a very clear sign on where your nervous system stands. So there is absolutely a duality. And the more our self awareness increases, the more we can see that through that duality and kind of match it up to each other and see it for what it is.
Yeah, though having those very specific strategies or techniques you can use are really helpful in the moment. And the larger work we have to do is around what we place value on. Because like you said at the beginning of that story, I was like, "Oh yeah, we are rewarded for burnout."
Yes,
Right? Like, the more you show up despite being battered, bruised, and, like, needing to be on the floor, the more people are like, "Wow, look at how strong that person is." And it is so painful. I was actually reflecting on this morning. I haven't really thought about my exit from education for a while. I'm coming up on 4 years now, which is
congratulations.
incredible to me, but there's still things that come to the surface, and I was walking up the stairs after my workout, which making that connection of moving the body. When we move the body, we move energy, we move other things, right? It never fails. Whenever I have a really hard workout and I'm coming back up the stairs, something will come to the surface.
Mhm.
And it was the I left because it became so painful to me to watch people destroy themselves, adults,
Yes,
children, everyone in the building, to attain this impossible expectation. And so where we really need to do some rewriting of what we value is moving away from valuing the destruction of ourselves
yes,
to valuing the healing and the comfort and the care for ourselves.
100%. And that's a huge mindset shift.
Yes.
It is, and it starts with the person. It starts with us because even though I slowly had these little realizations, what really clicked for me is when I was working with people and I would see their movement patterns shift. And I'll be like, what did you do differently? And yes, sometimes it was physical. They traveled, they sat in their desk for a longer period of time. But sometimes it was a shift in their emotional state. They had a fight with their spouse. And I was like, I started questioning that, like, wow, look how you're living is impacting how you're moving. Look how you're living is impacting your mobility, your aches and pains, the tension in your body, your breath, right? All of those signs that, again, your body is giving. And yeah, I mean, there's so much, and I come from the corporate finance, which is performance, performer, performance. It's all about performance of the company. It's about performance of the individual. I mean, speaking of high expectations, it's 100% there. And I mean, look at healthcare. Look where healthcare is. Our healthcare providers, our wellness providers, our healing providers are burned out. Like, that's where we are. And my message is no, that is not okay. You can't serve from a cup that is empty. You are running into more negative, right? You're depleting instead of refueling. So it all starts with yourself, and you are the only one who can prioritize that. If we keep waiting on the educational system, the healthcare system, the whatever system, the government to change things for us, we will be waiting for a really long time. It starts with us taking personal responsibility and setting up personal boundaries. And to what you said, Lisa, very importantly, really asking ourselves what's important to us? What are my priorities? And I will tell you that if you're running yourself down, if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating well, if you're not exercising, if you're not managing your stress level, it's not if, this will, it's a matter of when, have implications into how you age, into how you feel, and how you get to enjoy your older years. And especially when you talk about years of transformation and change, like perimenopause, menopause, that's like exacerbated and amplified by natural changes that are happening in our body. So it's very much of a choice of how we age and how we feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I created a post the other day about like what a time to be a woman and what a time to be a perimenopausal woman, because we are living in this time of massive social contextual shift. And for me, it sometimes feels like it's like one punch after another, right? Like one major punch coming in after another. And it's hard. And it also is giving me an opportunity to take what is happening to me in my body and channel that into we're not going to stand for what has been anymore. Like it really is giving us this very powerful and passionate perspective to say, this is going to be different for everyone coming behind me. And so that means doing some real challenging self-reflection. A reel by Tarana Burke, who Tarana Burke was the originator of Me Too long before it became part of the zeitgeist. And she said, we are living in this time where we realize that we were all so deeply groomed and conditioned that we don't even know ourselves.
We
And the
don't.
question, and who would I have been? And that settled in my soul in a deep way of who would I have been? And now I'm going to find out.
And you know what? Change is uncomfortable, no question. Especially, like you said, it's change after change after change. It's not like one thing changes and let's settle
No.
with this. However, it's how we look at change. And change is also an opportunity to say, you know what? I have a choice in how I change my life, how I impact my community, how I impact society, how I impact the world. And yes, all of us have such deep conditioning again that we don't even know that we are not living according to our own rules because it has become so normal to live according to somebody else's standards and rules. And that's where rebelliousness comes in. It's like stepping into your truth, whatever that means, stepping into your authenticity, your own self-expression. And I do think perimenopause is such an amazing time for us women because yes, there is change. Yes, there is discomfort. Yes, there is a lot happening into our body. However, we also have a different type of wisdom than when we are 15 or 17, right? We have
Mhm.
more confidence into who we are. We have hopefully more faith into who we are. And I think it can become really by choice a time of empowerment versus a time of I'm falling apart and the world is falling apart and this is the end of good life for me. No, this is an opportunity for you to build your best life yet when you choose to do so.
Yeah, I love that. It's why I love the rebellion in your in your brand and in your world. What does rebellion mean to you at this time, and how does that play out in your day-to-day?
So I named my company Rebellion because I was in finance. I was a finance director. And then I decided I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do, which is be more into the world of fitness. My world of fitness was kind of like a side gig hobby. And when I made the change, people were like, you're crazy. Like, who does that? And people were like, oh, this is a midlife crisis. Oh, this is never going to last. I heard all of these opinions. And there was a deep calling inside me. It was truly intuition guided. That was like, give this a try, like really give it a try. And so Rebellious, I named my company Rebellious as staying true to who you are. And I would tell you, Lisa, it started as Rebellious. It's been like almost 10 years now. It will be August of 26 will be 10 years. I love my company name because it is so much about an identity shift and you stepping into who you're meant to be, aside from the societal conditioning, aside from, what your family, your community has told you how you should behave, how you should look, what you should say, all of those things, and truly asking yourself, what are my priorities? And just because your priorities and mine are different, does that mean yours are right and mine are wrong or vice versa? We're different people, different humans, different purpose. And I think we also have this opportunity by learning about ourselves is also to start being able to create communities where there is respect for different opinions, where it's okay to think differently, because there is a common thread amongst all of us, and that's we're human. And then the rest of what separates us is that conditioning that we're talking about. So the more we step into our true authenticity, the more we realize the beautifully imperfect human we are, and the more we can see the world and the people around us as that, when we can live from a place of love and understanding, wow, what is that going to do for our world? So to me, that's rebelliousness. It's living, stepping into your power, living into your truth, and impacting the world through being that, through being yourself.
And what is the process you went through to start to set your own priorities?
It was a step by step process. It was not like starting today, I'm going to do that. I think the more I went through my journey, the more I worked with clients. The one thing that, I always tell my clients are my best teachers. Working with clients cannot replace any kind of certification, theoretical certification that you get. And the more you see how people behave, the more you see the misalignment into their lives, and the more you go like, where do I see that in my life? And slowly taking tiny little steps to move, and the more you take a little step and you're like, wow, that feels great in body, mind, and spirit. You're like, let's try again. And you're like, wow, look at that. The more that reinforces and creates that momentum, that gives you truly the permission to be like, this is who I am. Do you like me? Do you not like me? It's okay. I'm going to choose to live in my truth. And I really think that's another important part, because just yesterday I was thinking about that. We think we can force the journey. We cannot. Every one of us has our own path and our own speed. And it's a sacred journey that starts with a tiny little step. I celebrate the tiny progress that my clients get. And I teach them to appreciate the tiny steps. And I tell them it's a tiny step, a tiny step, a tiny step. And then one day you're like, oh, look where I am. And it feels so great. And then tiny step, tiny step, tiny step, you do another lip. And I think that's super important to because sometimes you feel defeated. You're like, this is not working. No,
Mhm.
learn to see the gain that you have made versus the gap. There's a book that comes to mind. I'm blanking on the author, but it's called Gap versus Gain. I'm basically seeing how much forward we have moved versus how much behind we are from where we want to be, so that we can look at things positively versus from a scarcity mindset and perspective.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. And we do always look at the gap.
Conditioning, conditioning, right? Comparison, like where am I not yet? Self judgment. I mean, realistically, intuitively, for most people, when they have a success, what do? Oh, great, that was great. Like 1 second, let's keep moving forward. But if it's a perceived failure, oh my gosh, the beating can last for years.
Gosh, yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
And like I absolutely can attest to the like, great, I was successful at this thing. Great, good, moving on. Yeah. But when things feel hard or you have a perceived notion of failure, yeah, it just lives here. And what a different perspective we would have. Or actually, not just perspective, it would be a totally different experience if we could take that, all the feelings, and this sort of brings us back to being in the body and practicing living from that place. So, this is one of the places I have been working and making some shifts is when I have a moment. So, for example, if I have done a really big keynote and it was exciting and it was great, and, I have people coming up to me afterwards saying how it impacted them. When that's happening, I pay attention to what my body feels like.
Yes.
So what is happening? How am I feeling? And I try and I not try. I am present to that so that I can recall it in moments when I feel struggle.
Yes.
Yes.
That's amazing. And I'll tell you, Lisa, this is something I teach my clients because our thinking is our mind, our body is our emotions. And whether you realize it or not, your body feels a certain way when you have a high vibrational emotion versus a low vibrational emotion. And learning to distinguish how your body feels in those two different states is critical because you want to retrain your body to live into that high vibrational state. So dancing is one of my favorite things. And I'll tell people, I get with a client online and I'm like, what's up with your vibes? And they're like, well, this is my day. And I'm like, all right, what are we going to do to get your vibrations up? And then how does that feel? And I mean, when I say dancing, I mean jumping around, singing like you're on a world stage, like really feeling it. Because you're right. You are learning to change your state of being, which is your personality, which is your identity. So
Yes.
you're literally retraining your body to be no longer live in this low vibrational state. I choose to live, I choose to be that person who vibrates high. And oh my gosh, the change is humongous. And it's all in your body.
Yeah. And it's the knowledge that that is possible
Yes.
that is really powerful. And it's not to say it's not the like high vibes only, right? It's
We are human.
we are human and we are going to experience times that feel hard and that feel painful. The power of this knowledge of knowing that you can choose to feel differently is acknowledging and letting yourself feel that and then say, okay, I've had it, like, I'm good. I've lived in this long enough and I need to feel differently now. And having a strategy to be able to go from one to the other and know that that's possible, that is one of it's like one of the most powerful pieces of information you can have.
And I always say awareness is step number one. Awareness that there is even a difference in how you feel. Because again, if you used to always feeling crappy, that's the only thing your body knows. So learning to tune into the little joys, such as, I don't know, a hug from your teenager is what comes to
Yeah.
mind, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
something that seems so little, but really tuning into like, wow, how my body feels now. So awareness is one. And then yes, realizing that you have a conscious choice of to interrupt what you usually know and to choose to show up differently. And one thing I want to bring up here, Lisa, which I think is very important is sometimes people are like, oh, I should never feel negative. And if I feel negative, I'm just going to sweep it under the rug and pretend I'm feeling positive. That is not healthy. When we have a negative emotion, that's totally okay. That's part of being human. It's acknowledging it. If you feel it in your body, it is important to learn how to release it and process it instead of shove it under the rug. Because over time, that's gonna come up and bite you.
Yes.
So it's not pretending, it's truly learning to feel that shift.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was getting at with the, like, we're not just talking about just high vibes only, right? Like, it's really important that we acknowledge because those emotions that feel challenging are signals,
Yes.
right? They are signals to us and to our body of something in this isn't right. And I love so Alanis Morissette lately has been doing a lot of talk about anger, and she positions it in such a powerful way. I love the work that she's doing around this right now. And you can, like, in Jagged Little Pill, you certainly can feel, right, the anger she was experiencing in those moments. And it is this powerful moment of like, this is not right. I'm going to make a change. And then it's release. Right. So, really sitting in that emotion and listening to it. What is it trying to tell you?
And one other thing I'll point here is be mindful of self-judging yourself. Oh, why do I always feel in the blank, right? Once again, conditioning, easy to do. I am experiencing whatever I'm experiencing. It's okay to feel that way. I will feel it and I'll let it go. Be mindful of not starting to judge yourself now for feeling in a negative way, because that can also become a trap, a self-sabotaging trap.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it can. Because then we go into the shame spiral, right?
Right? And becomes a vicious cycle we can't break.
Yeah, and it is when we start to layer shame and guilt over top of that emotion, and in some ways, that's a distraction from what you actually need to be feeling.
Yeah. And it's very important. I always talk about that is shame and guilt are taught emotions. They're not emotions that we're born with. They are born out of conditioning. So there is a story there, and we have the power to override that story and rewrite a new story. And every trigger that we have, every emotional trigger that we have, is based on an unmet need. So, learning who we are as a human and what our needs are and how we have learned to cope with those needs, whether in a healthy or unhealthy way, that's the opportunity for growth.
Yeah, which brings us to, so what does it mean to thrive for you? What does that mean, and what does it look like?
So to me, to thrive truly is to feel good. To feel good in mind, body, and spirit. To me, feeling nice and loose and relaxed in my body, being able to do little things like tie my shoelaces, pick up the laundry basket without, oh, my back hurts, oh, my neck hurts, right? Having that freedom in my body, that to me is thriving. Having a calm mind, one that you are in control versus it's going a million different directions. You can't focus, your energy is scattered. Being able to savor the present moment, to be in the present moment, that to me is thriving. How you experience life intentionally, or again, bouncing around and being here and here and here and here and really not being everywhere, showing up every day with intention, with high vibrational energy, and feeling great in mind, body, and spirit. It's super simple and yet in some ways so complicated.
Mhm. Yeah, as all things are, right? It's actually most things are actually very simple, but because of our lived experience in this strange experiment we find ourselves in,
Yes.
it feels hard. So, what are some really simple and concrete skills or strategies you share with people so that they can start to work through the complicated to get to the simple?
Number one, and you've probably heard this a million times, is breathing. Pausing and taking a few intentional breaths where you're really focused on the breath. It's something easy you can do any place, anywhere, and it's an easy way to shift your state because that allows you to really regulate your nervous system and shift from fight or flight to rest and digest. When we are in fight or flight, we don't have the focus, we don't have the calm, we're not in a state of thriving, we are in a state of survival, and that's a very different experience in our body. Dancing, that is a great one. Before hopping on a podcast, before joining a meeting, before meeting with a client, how you start your day. Just put your favorite tune. And people are like, well, I don't know how to dance. It's not about the dance move. It's about having fun. I tell people, grab a pen and that's your mic and just sing from the bottom of your lungs. It doesn't matter that you can't sing. The point is to shift your state again, to feel into your body, how that feels different into your body, to get the energy flowing. Movement, that's a huge one in my world. So if you're sitting every day for 12 hours, guess what that does to your body, mind, and spirit? That's stagnation. Where there is stagnation, things get stuck. Stuck energy is not high vibrational energy. So you know what? Get up and do 5 jumping jacks. Step outside and walk in the cul-de-sac. Outdoors, natural light, sunlight. Get up from your desk, step outside, and just soak for a couple of minutes the sunshine. Easy peasy. Step outside and take those breaths outside. Do something that you enjoy. On a Friday, and it just happened that 3 clients, I gave them the same homework. I said, this weekend, I want you to take 2 to 3 hours to yourself and do something you enjoy. No texting, no emails, no working. Do you know what their response was, Lisa? Well, what am I supposed to do?
Hmm.
They were like, can you give me example? I'm like, wow, do you not know what you enjoy? Right?
Yeah, it is something that I hear a lot as well. And as we were, conditioned, but also entered into this life where burnout was valued, right? So every moment had to be busy, had to be filled with something, whether it was caregiving or working or volunteer, whatever your mix was or is. That moments where you are quiet and still were not valued. And so they didn't happen. And I can speak to this from my own experience now because when my both of my kids went to university at the same time and I was instantly an empty nester and found myself like and I left education. And for the first time in 20 some odd years, I had these stretches of time that were not full.
Busy.
Even yeah, like, even now so my kids are in their 2nd year of university. Yesterday, I was feeling like I'm done with my workday. There's nothing else I want to do right now. So I step away from my computer and so this is something I'm actively working through, right? Because I'm like, okay, so what are the things I need to do to be productive? Because I'm so used to what that felt like.
Yeah.
So that is now my comfort zone,
Yeah.
right? Of like all these things. When the truth is, I could I could just lay down on the couch and look at the window if I wanted to. There literally is nothing that I have to do. And so getting comfortable with that is a real process of changing what we value, figuring out why it makes us so uncomfortable, and then thinking about what did I actually enjoy? Because for 20 years, we didn't do the things that we enjoyed. We did what we had to do. And so there is a process, which again takes us back to that perimenopause. And this is a time of like incredible potential and opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I often use music of because it's such a great concrete time travel mechanism. Be like, what are the songs that make you feel really good? Listen to them, go back to that time and what did you enjoy doing at that time? And so people have to get to know themselves again, what they did, and then maybe and what do I actually want to bring into my life now?
Yeah.
Maybe there's something I've always wanted to do that I've never tried. So I can start with the things that are comfortable to build that muscle of like just doing things I like to do. And then what have I always wanted to do? What do I want to try? And then start bringing that in.
You bring another important example, Lisa, and that's stillness. And for a lot of people, even a minute of stillness feels so uncomfortable. And I don't mean minute of stillness scrolling TikTok or watching Netflix. I mean truly a minute of stillness. I will tell you, just yesterday, I had my coffee and my mindful moment was I literally took the cup and it felt warm. It was a cold day yesterday down here. And I just smelled it. Just for, I didn't rush to drink it while I'm responding to email or making a phone call or whatever. That was it for just a couple of moments. That was my grounding moment. Super simple, super present, super effective.
Yes. Yeah.
The example that you give, it's one relevant to so many people. We are conditioned to be busy. And I'll tell you, even 10 years of this intent, doing this work intentionally for myself every day, my default is still busy. And it's like when the awareness comes, I'm like, oh, here we go again, right?
Yes.
And it's like, time out. What are we trying to do? I have a client just recently, she said, she set up times. We were talking about time management. So she set up times of when she checks email. So she's like, I check my email, I close it, and I check it between this and this. She's like, Maria, I used to be in email all day long. She's like, I really don't know what I was doing there. She's like, I'm just there because
Uh-huh.
she has found a way to keep herself busy, pretending she's doing something productive on email.
Yes.
And we all have those self-sabotaging and distractor patterns that we have learned to cope with.
Yes. One of the challenges I would issue to folks is take your phone and put it on another level of your home or put it in a space that is far away from wherever you are. Actually creating that physical distance creates what like one barrier because it's the like oh well I have to go upstairs to go and check this or I have to like go wherever the phone is and that for me has been a really effective strategy of making myself not be in multiple places at the same time. right? Of giving myself time to actually be present and letting that go. And I think that that's something that we really start need to start being present
Intentional.
to as well, is how much am I trying to escape and be somewhere else from where I actually currently am?
Yeah. I call that, Lisa, technology detox. And I do it especially on the weekends. I actually would leave my phone at home and go run errands. And it is amazing to be like, let me check this. And I'm like, oh, I don't have my phone. Let me check that. I mean, it's amazing how conditioned we are to checking an address, checking a review, quickly checking email, quickly texting somebody. Once you start realizing that and how attached we're to that phone, it's scary.
Yeah, it is. It's very scary. And then you start and then once you if you have other humans who live in your space, once you do that, you start noticing how everybody else is also, like, somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so spending some time, if you are an empty nester, having a conversation with your partner around like, this is something we need to do together, right? Like taking time to put our devices away somewhere. And it can even start in small, like you, I started by not putting my phone in my pocket when I took my dog for a walk at the end of the day.
Yeah. Hmm.
It was she and I go out tech free. We are out in the wilds doing our thing, and that felt really good. And so starting with something simple where you are already out, you are out in nature, which is good as and important. You are moving your body. So you have these things and letting yourself be present to what that actually feels like without listening to something, without checking something. It's a very different experience.
And you know what? I will give you a very silly one, but I think it's very realistic to where we are today. Don't take your phone in the bathroom. I mean, just leave it outside and just take 30 seconds, you know, to do what you need to do. Just, you know, present in the moment. Because what I love about your example is that you're stacking your habits, right? You're already associating this new behavior with something that you already do. One thing I tell my clients, I'm like, before you take a shower, because hopefully that's something people do regularly, do your breathing exercises because I teach them a particular type of breath. And I tell them, watch your body. Why? Because we're creating that mind body connection and it's increasing their awareness around their body, how it's feeling, so they can tap into that on a daily basis. These little things, again, going back to the small steps, are so potent over time that, yeah, once you start feeling the difference, you start going like, wow, like it's mind blowing.
Yeah, it really is. And it's, our theme of
Yeah. Yeah.
simplicity through the complexity. One of my most recent strategies that I've started using is I hold all my tension right here. So neck,
Yep.
upper back and
Yep.
shoulders. It's sort of like that cross zone, right? And I've started visualizing springs in that area because that's what it feels like. So when I'm super tense, it's like the springs are all contracted. Right. So I have this image of like springs crossed, and my visualization strategy is to unhook the springs. So there's like 4 spots where they're attached, and I just start to unhook those and let that visualization play out in my body of like, "Ugh, there's this freedom of movement when I do that." So really simple, but concrete strategies that you can use right away to start making those shifts in your body.
Totally. And even as you're sitting at your desk, let's say you have call after call and you're like, well, I can't really stand. You can stretch while you're sitting at your desk, right? You can, as I'm sitting, I can roll my hands back and forth. I can do the same thing on my feet. Like you won't even be able to tell, right? As long as you're not shifting. Between calls, you can, to what you're talking about, Lisa, is a lot of people hold attention. You can gently press the chin down and just gently just roll down. Exhale, inhale, roll back up and create some spinal mobility. Super easy. And it feels so good. So now you're integrating breath. Now you're integrating spinal mobility. You're getting energy to move. 2 seconds, 3 seconds, big payoffs. And then once you do it, you're like, that felt great. Now you're going to be like, I want to do that again. So it's not something that you have to do, right? The checklist of have to do, but it's something that you want to do because you start feeling the difference.
Yeah. And those small shifts make such a big
Yes.
difference. So, as we come to the end of our time together, the one thing I want to know more than anything right now is what is your favorite thing about this part of your life that you're in currently?
My word this year is impact. And I love creating impact because I see people's lives change. I see their energy change. I see how they feel in their bodies change. It's almost like the light bulbs are going on. And it's beautiful to watch. It is so beautiful to watch somebody really flourish. And it's uncomfortable, because they have to get uncomfortable in their body. They have to let go of habits and conditioning. And I really teach them to live in the zone of discomfort. And once they learn to embrace that and start feeling the difference and having them see, they'll take a deep breath and I'm like, oh my gosh, you just took a great breath. And they're like, okay. Because we don't evaluate, or like, we don't value these things. And I'm like, oh, did you see how your belly just exhaled? And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, celebrate that. That's a big deal. And, I make it fun. I make it exciting. I feel so grateful for the people I get to work with because there is a lot of trust. They're trusting me, their well-being, their health, their mindset, their energy. And yeah, impact is really what drives me, and impact and purpose. And that's why I'm so excited to be on a podcast like this to tell people that there is a way to change your life. I have personally gone through it. I see so many people, hundreds of people go through it. So it works. It's just a matter of you deciding that that's a priority for you and hopping on that train and taking that journey.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your energy with us today. This is such a great conversation to really bring some life and vitality into the world. So, thank you so much for that today.
Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you and your audience.
Thank you for hanging out with me on Transforming 45. If you laughed, nodded, or had an oh wow moment, hit follow and share it with your favorite midlife human. Find me on Instagram at @lboat and keep those transformations coming.
Electric acid.